Good morning, virtual villagers. This is Kate from What Kate Made, and you're joining me today to see me demonstrate how to make a vintage key fob. When I say vintage, I mean vintage style. I have a lot of, I like to use lace and ribbons and vintage buttons, things I've reclaimed, so that's the vintage element of it. Forgive the camera being a bit wobbly. I'm still struggling with a new tripod. The key fob I'm going to show you today requires virtually no sewing. It can be sewn if you've got a sewing machine, but I know not everybody does. So I've come up with a few little things to use that are simple but require no sewing or virtually. The sewing that we're going to do is decorative. You don't have to do it. If you can just bear with me a second, I'm trying to find my link so I can get your comments. There we go. Found it. Let me see if I can bring you up. Yep, got you there. So I've got your comments, so that'd be great if you could pop a hello, give me a wave, tell me what you're doing and how you're enjoying it. Make any comments and things that you think might be better done a different way. I don't even mind that. I love to learn. So without further ado, I'll show you what we're going to make. So as I said, it's a key fob. This is the, now to go the right way. So it's basically, it's a nice big chunky keyring, key fob. I call them fobs because I think this bit's the keyring. It's chunky and big. You'll be able to find it in your handbag. That's my problem, is that I drop keys in the bottom of my handbag and never find them again. As you can see, I'm trying to get you in the right. It's a little bit dim the way the camera's facing today. I've used this sort of vintage ecru lace. That is a beautiful button. I'm not quite sure where I acquired that from, but it's quite old. The other side, there's a different button with a bit of sort of an embossed pattern on it. I've just run some running stitch down the side to give it a little bit of more embellishment. I've used a piece of wide ribbon braid. I don't think you can see that. It's got little hearts on it. There we go. All the colours tone. That's my key ring, the key on it. This one also has, this keyring also has a little jump chain with it. And I've put a lobster claw, a large lobster claw on, because as I said about losing your keys in your bag, sometimes your bags have little, loops on the inside, and you can clip that on. I wouldn't clip it on the outside because it's too much of a temptation, I think, for people then. This also has a little hidden feature. Inside, it's got a little piece of Velcro that opens it up. So the top isn't sewn together. So it's like a pocket, and you can actually pop the key inside and hide it if you so wish. And you can leave your lobster claw outside, but put your key inside. Let me just fiddle about with this because the Velcro keeps trying to fasten. So one of the things I say, I've used methods to see the key disappears inside. One of the methods I'm using is Velcro, stick and sew Velcro. Various other things that reduce the amount of sewing you need. So I'll just go through what I've got here. So what I've got here is my piece of fabric. I'm doing it, that one I did with a sort of ecru linen. This is more of a sort of chintzy pattern, which is quite pretty. So I'm doing this one in a coloured one. The first thing I've done is, I don't know whether you can see that, I've used interfacing. This is an iron-on interfacing. It comes in a big sheet like this, and you basically iron it onto the back of your fabric and then cut round it, and it prevents it fraying. So if you so wished and you were a nice, neat, tidy person, you could cut that very straight. Mine's not very straight. You could use pinking shears. That would hide, that produced a crinkly edge, and that would hide the raggy edges a little bit. So we've got quite a few watchers. We've got Irene and Rosemary, who are regulars. I've also got Ruth and Julie. Hi, good morning to you all. So that's fabric with the interfacing on the back. I've got a piece of vintage style ribbon, which is, again, is cream with pink roses, so that matches my fabric nicely. I've got my Velcro, so that's going to make the fastening of the fob. And I've got my vintage buttons. Now for this one, I've got this Very, very pretty. Sort of Art Deco style pink one. And the other side, I'm going to put on this. Whoops, I'm not going to put it on now. I've just dropped it on the floor. Bear with me. Sorry about that. I've got this one, which is, oops, this camera's the wrong way around for me today. There, it's got a pattern printed on, sort of pink flowers. Don't drop it again. My keyring keychain thing. What else am I using with tools? I've got my big fabric scissors. I've got my small sewing scissors. I've got my trusty glue gun. Going to use that as well. I've got various needles and threads in my little teacup pin cushion. I have to show you how to make one of those one day. I've got this. Now this is Bondaweb. I get it on a sheet. You will maybe be more familiar with it as on a roll for hemming things. Basically, it's like double-sided tape for fabric, and it's pretty good. You just iron it on. So I have got an iron as well today. Going back to fabric, if you have any old vintage linens, now I picked this up at a charity shop, but you can see it's embroidered all along. Now that would make that particular piece would probably make a lovely key fob. Can you see? So you can use these, and again, if I put the interfacing on the back, it'll stop any edges fraying and it'll make it a little bit more stable. Right, so I've shown you everything we're going to, and the other thing is, of course, lace ribbon. Shown you everything we're going to use. Now I'm going to try and point you downwards without dropping it so that you can see what I'm doing. It's just a little bit awkward with my new tripod because I keep losing you. Let's try that again. Right. Right. Can you see me? Where's my hands? I am trying to get you on it without dropping it. There we go. Let's see what we can see now. Trouble is, I'm looking at the playback and it's a little bit in delay. There we go. Fully in the screen now. Okay, so I'll just move these bits to one side. Oh, important other thing I didn't show you is keys. I've got keys. Got a whole bag full of old keys. Right, so we're going to start with our fabric, and we want it to be, we want double the size, which is about, this is about right. It's a little bit wide, so, but I am going to hem it using the Bondaweb, so I'm not going to worry too much about the size yet. Now, the Bondaweb, don't know whether you can see that, has a rough shiny side and it has a paper side. So the paper side peels off when you've heated it up. So what I'm going to do first is hem both sides. I'm just going to use my iron just to, I want to show you two methods. Oops, don't want to stick that. This is why I've got a towel on my table today, is because I'm ironing. I'm going to just turn the sides over. Can you still see? Just to get them nice and flat and straight. Now, if you are confident with your sewing and don't want to use the Bondaweb, you could just leave it like that. And then when you fold it in, you would do it along the top as well to make a key fob. It's going to be a bit wide, this. You would, you could just sew it up the sides. I'm going to use the Bondaweb just to show you how easy it is to use. Now that I've seen that folded over, I'm actually going to trim it a little bit more because I think it's just a bit too big. I'm going to take a little bit, about an inch off the bottom. Very unscientific, me. I just cut a piece of fabric and think that'll do. Drives my quilting friends mad because they like it a little bit more precise than that. And then I'm going to cut about an inch off this side as well. Nice thing about the interfacing on the back as well is you do have little lines to follow when you're cutting, so your cutting's a little bit straighter. Put those bits to one side. So I'll just fold over this side and again with the iron. That looks a bit more like it. So when we fold it up now, we've got better shape. Right. And I'm just going to do the same. I'm going to do the bonder web bit first. So I'm going to bonder web one side, and I'm going to just sew the other side, just so that you see how easy it is with both. So I'm going to cut that piece of bonder web just to fit. It doesn't have to fit all the way along because we're going to fold those ends over. I'm just going to trim that so it's a little bit better shape. The wee dog's come up to join us. Our little dog is here now. I'm struggling a bit with this iron because I've still got a bad shoulder and it's quite a heavy iron. So you just run the iron over the paper side, give it a bit of a minute to cool, otherwise you'll burn your fingers, and then you peel the backing off. So as I said, you can hear it coming off. It's just like double-sided tape for fabric, and then you just fold that back down. It will stick a little bit because it'll still be a bit tacky from the heat we applied before. And then we're just going to run that iron over and give it a good press. And you can see it's seamed it. That just like you would if you were making trousers, like hemming your trousers. This side, I'm going to leave just folded over like that so that you can see when we finished it, the difference in between the bonder web side and the sewing side, and hopefully there won't be much of a difference. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is the same on the top and the bottom to create our nice neat edge. So just run the iron over it to create a nice seamed edge. And again, I think I'm going to put bonder web under both sides because we don't top stitch the top edge. I'm glad to see there's a few of you out there this morning. We were just discussing it before we started that because it's half term, we don't seem to be getting as many people. I've cut that a little bit short, so I might end up using both pieces. I'm going over this seam with it because we need to make sure the corner goes down, and I'll put the other bit there. Not over the, try not to overlap it. I should have cut a bit longer to start with, but never mind. And again with the iron, I am struggling to lift that iron. What I need to do is buy myself a little tiny craft iron. You see ones that quilters use for getting into little sharp corners, and they've just got like a little triangular heated blade. I need to get one of them. I've got enough. No, I don't. I don't need to get one. I've enough tools in my toolbox. And again, I'm just going to stick that down. And this is going to hold the corners as well to the sides. Okay. And then at the other end, where's my bonder web? I'll make sure I get it the right length this time. I'm just going to cut it in half because it's quite wide, that. This is the beauty of getting it. I buy mine, it's on a big roll, so it's like a roll of wrapping paper, really. One of the beauties of buying like that is that you can just get cut off as much as you need. But you can buy it in the supermarkets and haberdashers on a sort of like a ribbon on a roll, and it doesn't have the backing on, which makes it a tiny bit easier. The beauty of the backing is if you're cutting shapes out, you can draw on it, draw on the paper side, iron it onto your fabric, and then peel, cut it out round, and you can get shapes. And that's really good when you're doing a plique, so that you don't get it doesn't move around when you're trying to sew it. So I've left that side open. I'm now thinking I really should stick that one down as well. So I'm going to, just because it's going to make life a little bit easier all round. I mean, you can sew it, as I said before, you can sew it by hand if you fancy that. You can sew it on the machine if you've got a machine. I just find that demonstrating on the machine is a little bit difficult because where mine is, I can't really get a tripod next to it. Just making sure that that's properly sticky. So when you come to peel off the off the backing that you that you realise it's not stuck down properly. There we go. You hear that sort of almost tearing noise when it comes off, so you know that you've got it stuck down. So I'm just going to, just once more, go over it with the iron. Then I'm going to fold it up that way and go over it with the iron again. Now, we're not going to use the Bondo web to stick the sides together, because I'm going to use the I'm going to stitch it with the thread I showed you before. Now, before we go any further, we're just going to try our other bits in. So that's our ribbon for our loop. That's going to sit inside like that. I'll put it through that first, and then we can see the whole thing. It's always best to try everything out before you start sewing and sticking, because then you know. Now, one of the things mistake I made with mine earlier, I think, is I didn't make this ribbon long enough so the keys could tuck right down inside. So I've done that now. So that's my ribbon, and I'm going to use, again, the same vintage lace. So we need a length for both sides. So I'm going to cut that one and then measure another one. So I'm using this one, the thinner one on the top, because it's got a nice edge to it, and it'll sit nicely against the edge. And then I'm going to use the thicker lace at the bottom, and it has a sort of scalloped edge and then a sort of zigzaggy edge almost, so it has a top and a bottom. And I'm going to cut that there, and I'm going to just measure another piece. Again, you can buy this kind of lace on a roll, is really handy. I buy mine in a local craft shop. Not expensive, lasts for ages. I just do need to get rid of these bits because I'll end up sticking something I shouldn't to it. Okay, so that's our lace. Our button will just pop in the middle. That's very pretty. I think that all tones nicely together. So we can get on now with sticking everything on, and I'm going to use the glue now. I'm going to put the Velcro on this side. Let me have a think. And then put the Velcro on. Yeah, that'll work. Because the thing I found with mine was that the Velcro ended up on one side of the ribbon that I didn't want it to. So I'm just going to place that, make sure it's in the middle. I'll put my glue on and get my Velcro and cut a piece. Cut a piece that'll fit right across there. So that's there. So that's the hook side, and that's going to stick on there. And maybe put it right at the edge like that. And this is the other side. Oh no, it's two hook sides. Where's the fluffy side? There we go. And the fluffy side the same. And that is going to go on this side. And hopefully what I'm going to do is put that underneath, so that when they stick together like that. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, does that make sense? Right. Let me get. They are very difficult to get apart once they're on those. So I'll go back now to sticking on my ribbon. So I'm going to put a little line of glue there and a little line there, just so I've got a double stick, if you like. The ribbon goes on and you press it on. And then I'm going to put my Velcro. Again, I'll put a double line of glue and stick that on there. And I'm going to turn this the other way up. Now, this is where it might be a bit awkward for you to see, because I'm going to do this and stick the the other piece on the other side, but sort of curved over like that. Can you see that? And then I'm going to put the other bit of Velcro underneath that ribbon there. So I'm actually going to put the glue on the Velcro, just to save me spreading glue everywhere. Now, if I've done this right, fingers crossed, when we pull that up together, it should stick. It does. But even more importantly, I should be able to unstick that and drop the key inside. So the key will go. It works to a certain extent. I'm not quite sure how to make that work properly yet. I will work it out. Anyway, so let's get that. So we'll go back now to decorating the front and the back. And again, we're just going to use the glue. I'm going to put a line of my glue all along here, all the way to the edge. Put a little bit extra on the edges because I found it came away at the edges a little bit when I was doing it earlier. Press that down. Now I'm doing this slightly differently. I sewed the edge, like the decorative stitching on mine first, and then I found I covered it up with the lace. So I'm going to do it the other way this time. And the second bit of lace goes down the bottom. I'm going to do a double line of glue because it's wider. Again, right to the edge. Make sure I put it right way up. There we go. Flip it over. We'll do the other side. You're all talking about the weather. Typically English. Sunny Scotland. Oh, that's the air. Now, Dumfries and Galloway. I have a cousin who lives on a farm near Lauriston, and it's one of my favourite places in all the world. Absolutely adore it going there. It's like heaven. It's so quiet. You can't hear anything but birdsong. And at night, the skies are just amazing. So you're very lucky living in that part of the world. But it is a lovely day here as well. It's cloudless today. Yesterday we had a bit of cloud. And for once, because I'm on the west coast near Blackpool, the west coast is getting better weather than the east coast. I have a friend who lives in York and she's normally tells me, oh, it's beautifully sunny here. And it isn't where I am. But this time I've got the advantage. So you can see we're getting there. Now what I'm going to do now, before I put the buttons on, is I'm going to stop and do the sewing up the sides. Now I couldn't quite make my mind up which thread to use. I have two sorts of thread here. I have this one, which is like a crochet cotton. It's spun and mercerized, so it's shiny. It's quite nice, but I think it's a bit pale for this one. And it's good to do this. You need it quite thick so that you've got the definition, because the other alternative thread to use is embroidery floss, which is 6-stranded, but it's not as tightly spun, so you can split it. But I've left this hole, and I'm thinking that green is much more of a contrast. So I think I'm going to go with that. I've got glue all over my fingers now. Just let me get that off, because that will also stick to my embroidery thread. Right. So all I'm going to do is put a knot in it. That'll be enough to stop it coming through the fabric. I've got a nice needle with a big eye, quite sharp. When you've used Bondi Web, it is a little difficult to push through all the layers because it is a little bit gluey. I'm just going to trim that because I can see that is just a little bit long there. I don't want it to be overlapping my fabric. Maybe the other side as well. This is just the lace I'm trimming, not the fabric. At least I hope it's not the fabric. There we go. That's a little bit better. Now, back to where we were. So I've got my knot in my thread. I'm going to put it on the inside and thread it through all the layers, because then it's hidden inside. As you can see, it can be a little difficult to get through the gluey layer. So I'm going to hide my end inside, and then I'm going to just do a little decorative running stitch up this edge. Proves a little bit difficult when you're going through 4 layers. I tend to just push it through with my on the table for the first one, but once you get through this top corner, there are less layers and it is a lot easier. And I'm going to make them nice and even, little stitches all the way along. So this is putting your sides together. So we are sewing these sides together. It doesn't have to be, you could do back stitch, but then you would see it on the other side. The running stitch is nice, enough to hold it together and just keep them nice and even. And not too big a stitch, but it's also going to help us keep the edge of these pieces of lace held down. Don't have to do running stitch. You could do back stitch. You could do chain stitch. You could do anything. I mean, you could do whatever embroidery you like. I've recently been making a panel for a bag out of fabric that's very similar to this, and I've embroidered all around the edge of the flowers to give them just a little bit of definition, and I've quite enjoyed doing that. It's quite fiddly, but I've enjoyed it. I'm finding that my shoulder won't let me do too much crochet, so I've been trying to find other things to do, one of which is embroidery, because I can manage that. Again, when I get into all these layers, you can see it's a little bit of glue come up on that needle, but it'll come off with a bit of nail varnish remover. Just get harder to push through, but as I say, because it's a nice simple stitch, it doesn't you can manage just by putting some pressure on your needle to get it through. I'm not going to go along the bottom edge because I did on the other one, but I don't need to. It's already sewn, yeah, where it's folded. So I'm just going to stop there. Now, what I'm going to do now is put the needle through and onto the inside, just to hide the end, if I can get it through without sticking myself. So that's going to pull it through onto the inside, and then I'm just going to snip it on the inside. Actually, first thing I'm going to do is anchor stitch it. So when I anchor something, I go through a stitch that already exists and just pull a knot, and that will stop it all unraveling. Cut it short, and then where it overlaps there and it hasn't quite, glue's gone to sleep, I will put a dot of glue on it when that warms up. So I'll leave the other side so you're not constantly watching me sew. I'm not sure how we're doing for time. Oh, we're all right for time. So you can see, got a little bit awry, but there you go. I'll not sew the other one because you don't want to watch me sew. So now the next thing we want to do is our buttons. And here are our buttons. I'm going to put one on one side and one on the other. So I want it right in the middle under the ribbon. I'm going to glue the buttons on simply because sewing through is a bit more difficult. And I'm waiting for my glue to come alive. Just give me a second. So on the end here, we can put the keys, if I can fiddle around to the split in the ring. So I'll just put one key on it for now. Don't know what this key is for. As I said, I've got a collection of keys. I use them for wind chimes. They're lovely for a wind chime because they really tinkle, like a very musical tinkle. So that's the key on. That's the end for the lobster claw. I don't have one to hand at the moment, but what you would do is, that's a jump ring. You can split it open and pop something on there. Right, so my glue is coming warm now, and I'll pop the glue on there. If your button like mine has the holes, just be careful when you press it down because the glue does bob up through the holes. Now, what I would say to you is just to make sure the glue's not going right through the fabric. So we'll open our Velcro and make sure that it's not going right through and sticking it together. The interfacing helps with that. It doesn't allow a lot through. Now, this is the other side, and this is our other button. I'm going to actually glue the button because this is a bigger one, so I want to go around the edges of the button, not where the holes are, just to hold it on a bit better. And I can feel it backing up with the other button. And again, I'm just going to separate out that so it doesn't stick through the layers. That's it, more or less finished. As we've got a little bit of extra time, I will show you the other side sewn up, and then you can see the finished thing. So again, I'm just going to knot it, and I'm going to pull the knot through from the inside so that the knot and the spare bit of thread is hidden. Then I'm going to start just sewing down in my running stitch. Oh, I hope you've enjoyed this. I can see there's 11 of you watching me, which is quite nice. If you're watching back later, you can comment, tell me what you like, what you didn't like, what you would do, any other suggestions. These make a nice little present. I suppose teacher gifts are the next thing that everybody will be wanting to get. Father's Day, it's not really I suppose it could be a Father's Day thing. You don't need to make it quite so feminine. You could use, I'll show you something I've got in a minute. I got a load of scrap leather. It's furnishing leather, and you know when they make sofas and things, and it's so it's quite thin because you can sew it, and that would make a nice one. In fact, I might make one this afternoon and show you it. I'll put it on my Facebook page, so you can find all sorts of ideas. And oh, that's hard. Where the glue is, I'm just going to go through one layer, I think, with this. As I say, all sorts of other ideas, little demos on my Facebook page. You can go back through VBH and find my other demos. If you're a crafty girl or boy, there's loads on there for you. You can also get them on YouTube. I quite often go back on the YouTube ones and link them to my Facebook page because it's good to get a different audience. I have made a bit of a boo-boo of that and got my knot, but hey ho, it's not a mistake, it's a design feature. That's what I would say. So I'm just going to try and get this, as I said, I like to finish it off inside. So I like to get my needle to come up inside, and then I can hide all the ends. And just snip that thread off. That's that done. And the last thing I'm going to do is pop a little bit of glue under these two ends, just to make sure it sticks. Now, that, considering it's only got this little tiny bit of running stitch on it, is pretty, and it's easily achievable, and it just uses scraps of everything. You can put it on your bag and it would look pretty. You can put it inside your bag if you didn't want to get we can open it up and pop our key inside so that it's hidden from view. You could also put in I don't know, trolley token. It's not, the Velcro doesn't really close it up enough to put money in it. I think that would probably fall out. But yeah, you can pop your key, tuck your key away out of sight. You're not going to lose that in your bag. If you didn't want to make it a pocket style, you could pad it with a little bit of stuffing and then sew along this edge as well. As I say, you can quite easily sew it on the machine. We could have sewn all of this on the machine and then just added the decorative stitching as well. But I wanted to show you a way of doing it so that if you can't sew or you don't have a sewing machine, you could just as easily make one. Now, I hope you're happy with what we've done. So that was the one we've done together. This is the one I did earlier, which I cannot get apart now, with the lobster claw on, which are quite handy, as I say, for hooking on the inside of your bag. Now, I said I would show you the leather, if I can see it. I'm glad you can't see the rest of my workroom. Let me turn you back up again. So the leather isn't to hand, but I will make one up with leather and show you how easy it is to do. Particularly with the leather, I find, although you can sew it, my machine isn't quite robust enough for it. So the glue is a good idea with the leather. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm putting my glasses back on so I can actually see you. I've enjoyed it. These are nice little gifts. You might wonder what I do with all of these, because I'm going to make one and demo one. I have two. So what I generally tend to do, or I have been doing the last few weeks or so, is my crochet class on a Tuesday night. I have 3 ladies come to a crochet class. They all take one home with them because, and otherwise they'd have a house full of stuff. So I'm glad you've enjoyed that. I hope you've enjoyed that. Please leave me comments, as I say. If you're watching on replay, comment #replay. I'm going off now to do some gardening, if children are allowing. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.